The stranger in the dark hit was a quiet night, the kind of night where even the wind seemed to hold its breath. John, a human man who lived alone at the edge of a small settlement, was sitting by his old wooden table, the only light coming from a single lamp. He had finished his meal and was ready to rest, but something disturbed the silence. At first, it was small, just a faint sound, like the creak of a loose floorboard. John frowned. His house was locked, and no one should be inside. He held his breath and listened carefully. The sound came again, softer this time, but real. It was coming from the back of the house near the washroom. John stood up slowly, his heart beating louder than the noise itself. He was not a soldier, not a fighter, just a simple man. But he reached for the iron rod he kept near the door. His hand shook slightly. Who would enter his home at this time of night? Was it a thief, or worse, one of the wild creatures that sometimes roamed close to human houses? He walked quietly, each step heavy against the wooden floor. The shadows in the hallway seemed darker than usual, and the air felt cold. He reached the door of the washroom and placed his ear against it. A sound made his heart stop soft breathing, trembling like someone was crying but trying not to be heard. Without warning, John pushed the door open. The sight before him froze him in place. It was not a thief, not a soldier, not even a wild beast. It was a girl, and alien girl. Her figure was thin, almost fragile. Her clothes were torn, hanging in pieces. Her hair was tangled and covered with dirt. Her skin was marked with bruises and scratches. She looked like she had been running for days without food or rest. The girl turned sharply when the door opened, her eyes wide with fear. She raised her hands as if to defend herself. But her whole body shook so badly that she could not even stand straight. John tightened his grip on the iron rod, but something stopped him. The girl's voice, weak and broken, slipped through her lips. "Please, don't hurt me. I only want to wash. I'm so dirty, please." John blinked, confused. He expected excuses, lies, maybe even anger from an intruder. But this girl was begging only for water, for the chance to be clean. Her eyes filled with tears as she pressed herself back against the wall, as if expecting him to strike. The rod in John's hand suddenly felt too heavy. He lowered it slightly, but kept his guard. He studied her carefully. She did not look dangerous. She looked desperate. The smell of dirt and sweat filled the small washroom. Her body trembled from weakness, not from strength. John's first thought was to call the guards if anyone found an alien in his house. He could be punished. People in the settlement hated her kind. They called them thieves, liars, troublemakers. And yet, here she was, not stealing, not attacking, but crying and begging to be allowed to use water. "Why are you here?" John asked, his voice low and sharp. The girl flinched at the sound. Her lips moved, and she spoke again, her voice breaking with every word. I had no choice. They would not let me near the wells. If I asked, they threw stones. I ran, I hid, but I have not washed in so long. Please, I only wanted to feel clean, just once. Her words struck something inside John. He had heard stories of how aliens were treated, but he had never paid much attention. Now, standing in front of this girl, he saw the truth with his own eyes. The silence between them stretched. John did not move. The girl stayed pressed against the wall, her eyes full of fear and shame. It was a strange scene, one human man and one alien girl, trapped in the same small space, both unsure what would happen next. Outside, the night was still silent, but inside the cabin, tension grew heavy. John thought of his neighbors, of the guards, of what would happen if anyone discovered this. His life could change forever in one moment. And yet, when he looked at the girl, he saw not an enemy, not a criminal, but someone broken, someone in pain. The girl's voice cracked again, softer. "This time, I swear, I will not steal. I will not stay. Just let me wash, and I will go. Please. Her words echoed in John's mind. He could end this quickly, throw her out into the night. Lock the door, forget it ever happened. But his feet would not move. His hand would not rise to push her away. Instead, he stood there, torn between fear and pity. The weight of the decision pressed down on him for the first time in years. John felt his simple, quiet life was no longer safe. The stranger in the dark had changed everything, and as the girl's tear-filled eyes stayed locked on his, John knew this was only the beginning. The plea John did not lower his eyes. He stood in silence, still holding the iron rod loosely. The alien girl remained by the wall. Her arms wrapped around herself. Her chest rose and fell quickly, like she had been running for hours, even though she was standing still. Finally, John spoke, his voice calm but sharp. You came into my house without asking. Do you know what that means? The girl's lips trembled. She nodded slowly, her eyes filled with shame. I know. I know I should not have come. But I had no choice. She swallowed hard, trying not to break into sobs. Please, don't send me out yet. Just let me wash. Only once, and I will leave forever. John studied her carefully. He expected a trick, some hidden reason, but what he saw was only pain, the dirt on her skin, the smell of sweat, the hollow cheeks. They told a story words could not hide. Why my house? John asked, narrowing his eyes. Why not the well or the stream outside the village? The girl shook her head. Her voice cracked. They watch the wells. Humans throw stones when they see me. The streams are poisoned with waste. I can't go there. If I ask anyone, they curse at me. Some even tried to hurt me. She lifted her arm slightly, showing an ugly bruise across her wrist. It was dark purple, as if someone had grabbed her hard and twisted. John frowned, anger stirring in him, but he did not show it. The girl's voice dropped lower, so soft it almost disappeared. I just wanted to feel clean once more. Before I die. Her words hit John like a hammer. His grip on the rod tightened. He was not used to hearing such hopelessness in a young voice. She looked no older than 20, yet her eyes carried the weight of someone who had lived through years of suffering. John's heart twisted. He knew he could still throw her out, and no one would blame him. But part of him could not ignore her broken plea. The girl continued, her words spilling out like water from a cracked jug. I will not steal anything. I will not ask for food. I don't want to cause you trouble. Just a little water. Just a few minutes. Then I will be gone. I swear it on my life. She looked at him with eyes so wide, so desperate that John had to look away. He had never seen such raw begging. Not even from the poor humans who sometimes came to the village for bread. He thought of the rules. The settlement hated her kind. They said aliens were liars, thieves, dangerous creatures who brought only trouble. But this girl looked like none of that. She looked weak, broken, and terrified. Why are you running? John asked, lowering the rod a little. Who are you hiding from? The girl hesitated, her lips pressed together, as if the truth itself might bring danger. After a long pause, she whispered, soldiers, they hunt my kind. If they catch me, they will chain me again. John's eyes narrowed. Chain you? You mean, as a slave? The girl nodded quickly. Her whole body shivered at the word. Yes. They take us, force us to work, beat us if we fall. They say we are nothing but animals. She lifted her other arm, showing a scar that ran down her shoulder, thin but deep. I escaped. But I cannot run forever. I am too weak. Her honesty made John's chest heavy. He lowered the iron rod fully, setting it against the wall. Still, he kept his distance. So you came here, to my house, risking death if I called. The guards, just for water. Yes, she whispered, her eyes filled with tears again. "Just for water, please. I have no one else. I have nowhere else to go. If you send me out, I will not live long." The silence stretched again. John felt the weight of her words. Pressing against him, he thought of his quiet life, the simple meals, the empty nights. He thought of his neighbors, how they would laugh at him if they knew he even let an alien girl speak inside his walls. But he also thought of her, standing there, broken and dirty, with nothing left but the will to ask for water. Finally, John exhaled slowly, his voice low but firm. "You may wash, but no tricks. No stealing. You go in, clean yourself, and leave quietly. Do you understand?" The girl's eyes widened, shining with sudden hope. Her lips trembled as she nodded again and again. "Yes, yes, I understand. I promise. Thank you." "Thank you, Huen." She stepped carefully toward the washroom, her legs shaking. John did not stop her. He stood in the doorway, watching as she entered. The sound of water soon filled the silence. At first it was soft, then stronger. John heard her quiet sobs mixing with the stream of water. It was not just cleaning. It was release, like she was washing away chains he could not see. John stood, with his back against the wall, staring at the ceiling. He could not believe this was happening. A stranger, an alien girl, had walked into his life, begging only for the simplest thing, and he had let her. But deep inside, he knew this was not the end. It was only the beginning. The wrist John leaned against the wall of his small cabin, the sound of water running behind the closed washroom door, echoing through the silence. The girl's quiet sobs mixed with the stream, and every drop of water seemed heavier than usual. It was not just a shower to her, it was freedom, even if only for a short time. John rubbed his face with both hands. What was he doing? If anyone found out, he could be accused of hiding a fugitive. The guards would drag him away, and the whole village would turn its back on him. Humans who helped aliens were treated like traitors. He could lose everything, and yet, when he remembered the way she begged, the way her voice cracked when she said please, he knew he could not have thrown her out. Something about her desperation had broken through the wall he had built around his quiet life. The water stopped. The cabin grew silent again. For a long moment, John wondered if she had escaped through the small window. But then the door creaked open. The girl stepped out. Her hair was wet, falling in tangled strands over her shoulders. Her skin was still marked with scars and bruises, but she looked different, cleaner, softer, almost human. The dirt that once covered her face was gone, and for the first time, John saw her eyes clearly. They were large, dark, and shining with both fear and gratitude. But before he could speak, her knees gave out. She stumbled forward and collapsed to the floor. John rushed to her side, catching her before her head struck the wood. She was light, far too light, as if she hadn't eaten in days. "You're weak," John muttered, lifting her carefully onto a chair. "When was the last time you ate?" She shook her head weakly. I don't remember. Food is harder to find than water. Most humans chase me before I can even ask, I thought. I thought maybe I would die before I ever washed again." Her voice cracked, and she looked down. Ashamed, John sighed. He walked to the small shelf, took out a loaf of bread, and handed it to her. She stared at it like it was treasure. Her hands shook as she tore off a piece and shoved it into her mouth. She ate fast, too fast. John had to stop her. "Slow down. You'll make yourself sick." She froze, swallowed hard, and nodded. Then she whispered, "Thank you. I owe you everything, human." John waved his hand. "Don't thank me. This is foolish, dangerous. If anyone saw you here," he stopped. His words cut off by the sudden sound of boots outside, heavy footsteps in the dirt. Voices. John's stomach dropped. He moved quickly to the window, lifting the corner of the curtain. His blood went cold. A patrol of 2 guards was walking down the path. their lanterns swinging, their eyes scanning the houses. One of them laughed loudly, saying, "The escaped alien was seen near this area. If anyone hides her, they'll regret it." John turned back. The girl's face was pale. Her eyes wide with terror, she whispered, "They're here for me." "Quiet," John hissed. He grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the back of the cabin. He pointed to a small storage chest. "Hide in there. Now, don't make a sound." She hesitated. But the knock on the door made her move. She crawled inside, curling her body tightly. John shut the chest softly, just as another knock shook the cabin. Louder this time, John forced himself to breathe. He opened the door slowly. The two guards stood there, their lanterns casting sharp shadows across their stern faces. "Evening," one said, his tone rough. "We're looking for a runaway alien girl. Thin, filthy, eyes too big for her head. You seen her?" John shook his head quickly, keeping his face calm. "No, haven't seen anyone. It's been quiet here." As always, the second guard narrowed his eyes, leaning forward. "You live alone, don't you, John?" "No family, no visitors. That makes this a good place to hide someone, doesn't it?" John forced a small laugh. "Hide someone? In this broken cabin? I barely have space for myself. You're welcome to look if you think I'm lying." The guard smirked. "We just might." He stepped forward, pushing past John into the cabin. John's heart raced. He clenched his fists to stop them from shaking. His eyes darted to the chest in the corner. The guard's lantern lights swept across the room, stopping just short of the chest. The first guard kicked at the table. Sniffing, "Smells like fresh bread. You feeding someone, John?" John's throat tightened. "I just baked, nothing unusual." He forced himself to sound annoyed. "If you're done wasting my time, I'd like to sleep." The guards exchanged a look. Then the second one smirked. "Careful, John. If we find out you're helping one of them, you'll hang with her." With that, they turned and left. Slamming the door behind them, John leaned against the wall, his chest heaving. He walked to the chest and opened it. The girl lay inside, her hands pressed tightly over her mouth. Her eyes were wide with terror. "They're gone," John whispered. "But they'll be back. They're hunting you, and now they're watching me too." The girl crawled out slowly, shaking. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring danger to you. I should go. If I stay, they'll kill you too." John looked at her for a long moment, torn between reason and something deeper. Finally, he said quietly, "If you leave, they'll catch you. If you stay, I'll be marked as a traitor. Either way, the risk is mine now." The girl looked at him, tears streaming down her face. "Why? Why are you helping me?" John didn't answer. He didn't know the answer himself. All he knew was that something had shifted in his life, and he could not go back to the man he was yesterday. The risk had begun, and there was no turning back. Asterisk. The truth revealed, the night dragged on long after the guards left. John sat at his table, his hands still trembling from the close call. Across from him, the alien girl sat quietly, her wet hair clinging to her face. She held the half-eaten bread, like it was a priceless treasure, but she wasn't eating anymore. Silence filled the cabin, broken only by the faint crackle of the lamp. John stared at her, waiting. He wanted to ask who she really was, why she risked everything, but the words didn't come easily. Finally, he leaned forward, his voice low but firm. "Tell me the truth," he said. "Who are you? Why are they hunting you?" The girl looked down, her fingers gripped the bread tightly. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "My name is Lyra." She paused, swallowing hard. "I was born in the slave camps. My people were captured long before I was even alive. I never knew freedom. I never knew a home. I only knew chains." John frowned. His stomach tightened. He had heard of the camps, but to most humans in the village, they were nothing more than distant rumors. Now the proof sat in front of him, living, breathing. Lyra's voice shook as she continued. From the moment I could walk, I was made to carry stones. Cook, clean. When I fell, they beat me. When I cried, they starved me. I learned never to speak, never to look anyone in the eyes. Her hands shook as she spoke, and her eyes glistened with tears. I escaped 2 months ago. I thought I could live free. But freedom is just another word humans use to mock us. They call us filthy. They spit at us. I have been running ever since. John clenched his fists. Under the table, rage burned inside him, but he kept his face calm. If it's this bad, why risk coming here? Why not run far into the forests or to the mountains? Lyra lifted her eyes. They were dark and shining, filled with exhaustion and pain. Because there is no place safe, the soldiers search everywhere. The villagers betray us. The forests have beasts worse than humans, I thought. Maybe in a quiet house like yours, just for one night, I could wash away the dirt. I could feel like I am alive, even if only for a moment. Her words struck deep into John's chest. For years, he had lived alone, complaining silently about his boring, uneventful life. But now, here was someone who would give anything for the peace he took for granted. Do you know what happens if they catch you? John asked, even though he already guessed the answer. Lyra nodded slowly. They chain me again, or they kill me to make an example. Sometimes, both. Her voice broke as she whispered, I am tired of running, John, tired of hiding. I just want to be clean, to feel like I am more than dirt on the ground. Her use of his name startled him. He hadn't told her. How did she know? You know my name? John asked sharply. Lyra blinked, surprised. Yes, everyone in the village knows you. The quiet human who never speaks much. Who never joins the cruelty. You fix things for people, but you never laugh when they mock us, I thought. Maybe you were different. John sat back, stunned. He had no idea the aliens noticed him at all. He always kept his head low. But somehow this girl had seen something in him he hadn't seen in himself. The silence stretched again. John looked at her closely. At first glance, she was fragile, thin, weak. But now, with the dirt gone, he could see a kind of hidden strength in her face. The way she spoke. The way she survived this long, it wasn't just luck. It was willpower. Lyra lowered her gaze again. Her voice soft. I know you are risking everything by letting me stay. I can leave now if you want. You already gave me more kindness than anyone ever has. I will not blame you if you ask me to go. John felt a strange twist in his chest. He should tell her to leave. It was safer for him. Safer for her, too. But when he imagined her walking out into the dark, alone, weak, and hunted, his stomach turned. No, John said firmly, surprising even himself. If you go now, they'll catch you before dawn. You're too weak. And I don't want your blood on my conscience. Lyra's eyes widened. Her lips parted as if she couldn't believe what she heard. You will let me stay. John hesitated. His head screamed that this was madness, but his heart had already chosen. For now, yes. But you must listen to me. You must stay hidden. You must do exactly what I say. If the guards return, you don't move. You don't breathe. Lyra nodded quickly. I will. I promise. I will not cause you trouble. Her shoulders shook as tears rolled down her cheeks. This time, they weren't just tears of fear. They were tears of relief. She bowed her head, whispering, Thank you, John. I will never forget this. John looked away. Staring at the flickering lamp, he told himself it was only for one night. Only until she was strong enough to leave. But deep inside, he knew the truth. Something had already changed. The truth had been revealed, and there was no going back. Danger at the door of the night was heavy with silence. But John could not rest. He sat awake long after the lamps should have been put out. His eyes kept drifting to the door, half expecting another knock. The memory of the guards' voices still echoed in his mind. Across the room, Lyra lay curled up on a thin blanket near the fire. She had fallen asleep quickly, too tired to fight her exhaustion. Her breathing was soft, almost fragile. Every time she stirred, John's chest tightened. He wondered how many nights she had slept outside, trembling in the cold, before she found his house. For the first time in years, John did not feel alone in his cabin, but the warmth of her presence was mixed with the sharp edge of fear. He knew it was only a matter of time before the soldiers returned. The next morning came quietly. John stepped outside to fetch water from the small barrel near his house as he bent to fill a jug. He noticed something strange: two men standing at the far end of the path. Watching, they weren't moving, just waiting. He felt their eyes on him, and his stomach dropped. "They're watching me," he whispered under his breath. He straightened. Forcing himself to walk back inside calmly, Lyra looked up when he entered. Her eyes were full of question and fear. "What is it?" she asked softly. John set the jug down hard. "Patrols. They're outside, waiting for me to slip." Lyra sat up quickly, her hands clutching the blanket. "Then I must go, if I stay. They will punish you." "No," John said firmly, his voice sharper than he intended. She flinched, so he lowered his tone. "If you leave now, you won't make it 3 steps before they drag you away. They want you, Lyra, not me." Tears welled in her eyes. But she nodded. She knew he was right. Hours passed slowly. The men outside didn't leave. Their shadows moved with the sun. John tried to work, chopping wood behind the cabin. But he could feel their eyes, even from there, by the time night fell. Again, his nerves were raw that evening as John and Lyra shared a small meal. The knock finally came. It was sharp, hard, the kind of knock meant to break doors. Lyra froze, her spoon falling to the floor. Her eyes widened in terror. John stood quickly, his chair scraping against the wood. "Stay quiet," he whispered. He walked to the door, his heart pounding. He opened it slowly. 3 guards stood outside, this time not 2. Their leader, a tall man with a scar across his cheek, stepped forward. His eyes narrowed as he looked at John. "Evening again, John," the guard said, his voice smooth but cruel. "We've had reports. Someone saw movement near your house last night. Care to explain?" John forced a shrug. "Rats, maybe, or shadows. I live alone, remember." The guard smiled coldly. "Do you? 'Cause I don't believe you. We think you're hiding something. Or someone." He tried to step inside, but John blocked the doorway. "This is my home," John said firmly. "You can't just walk in whenever you feel like it." The other guards shifted, their hands on their weapons. The leader leaned closer, his eyes drilling into John's. "If you're clean, you've got nothing to hide. Move aside." John's heart hammered. He knew if they searched, they would find her. Lyra sat frozen only a few feet away, hidden by the corner wall. She pressed her hands over her mouth to stop her breathing. John clenched his jaw. "No," he said quietly, but with steel in his voice. "You've searched once already. You found nothing. You won't tear through my house again just because you're bored," the leader sneered. "You're brave for a man alone, John. Brave. Or stupid." He shoved John hard, but John stood his ground. The guards laughed quietly. Enjoying the tension, from inside the cabin, a soft sound escaped Lyra's muffled cough. John's blood turned to ice. He coughed loudly at the same time, slamming his fist against the doorframe to cover the noise. The guards flinched at the sudden sound, but the leader's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "You'd better be careful, John," the leader said, stepping back. "If we find her here, you'll hang with her." "That's a promise," With that, he turned sharply and left, the other guards following. Their boots thudded against the dirt until the sound faded. John shut the door quickly and leaned against it. His breath came heavy. His hands shook. Lyra crawled out from behind the wall, tears streaking her face. "I almost ruined everything," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I'm sorry, John. I should leave now, before they come back." John turned to her, his face hard. "No," he said firmly. "They'll expect that. They'll be watching the roads, waiting for you to run. If you leave now, you're dead." She stared at him, her lips trembling. "But why risk your life for me? I'm nothing to you." John shook his head slowly. "You're not nothing, Lyra. And as long as you're in this house, you're under my protection." She covered her face with her hands, sobbing quietly. For the first time in her life, someone had said she was worth protecting. Outside, the night was heavy again. But this time, John knew that danger was not far away. The door had been tested. The guards would return, and when they did, the risk would grow even greater. The danger was at the door, and it would not leave. The Bonda night, after the guards left, silence once again filled John's cabin. But it was no longer the calm silence he once knew. Now it was heavy, filled with the sound of two hearts and lyres beating too fast, both knowing danger was close. John sat by the fire, staring at the flames. His thoughts were a storm. He had lived a quiet life, a safe life, but in a few days everything had changed. He had taken in a fugitive, lied to the guards, risked his own life. Why? He couldn't answer, not fully. Behind him, Lyra sat quietly, her thin frame wrapped in the blanket he had given her. She was no longer trembling with cold, but with something else, fear, mixed with relief. She looked at John with soft, uncertain eyes, as if she was trying to understand him. Finally, she broke the silence. "You should have let them search," she whispered. "You should have handed me over. It would have saved you." John turned, his face hard. "Stop saying that. I already told you. I'm not throwing you to them." Her lips trembled. "But why? Why risk your life for me? I am not human. I am nothing to your people. Why do you care?" John looked at her for a long moment. He had no easy answer. He shrugged finally. "Because I don't see a monster when I look at you. I see someone who just wants to live." Those simple words broke something inside her. Tears slid down her cheeks, but this time they weren't only tears of fear. They were tears of being seen, of being treated like a person. The days that followed were slow but strange. For the first time since she escaped, Lyra was not running, not hiding in caves or filthy ditches. She was inside a home. In the mornings, she helped clean the cabin, her small hands scrubbing the wooden table or sweeping the dusty corners. She moved quietly, careful not to disturb John. At first, he tried to stop her, saying she didn't need to, but she insisted. "I want to give back something, even if it's small." In the afternoons, she would sit by the window, watching the world outside. Her eyes followed the birds as they flew free across the sky. Sometimes John caught her smiling, and for a moment, she looked less like a hunted fugitive, and more like a young woman with dreams. At night, they shared meals, small and simple. Bread, soup, whatever John could gather. Lyra ate slowly now, not rushing like before. She even began saving half her portion for the next day. A habit John noticed with quiet sadness, he realized. She had lived so long in hunger that she still expected food to vanish at any moment. But little by little, the fear between them began to melt. One evening, as they sat near the fire, Lyra spoke again. This time not with trembling fear, but with curiosity. "Do you ever get lonely, John?" she asked softly. John raised his brows. "Lonely." He poked at the fire with a stick. "Sometimes, I suppose, but I got used to it. Easier that way." Lyra tilted her head, studying him. "I was always surrounded by people in the camps. But I was still lonely. No one cared if I cried. No one cared if I bled. I think loneliness is not about being alone. It's about being unseen. Her words struck deep. John looked at her, realizing she understood something he had never put into words. For years he had lived alone, but he never admitted how empty it felt. Now, sitting across from this fragile but strong alien girl, he felt less alone than ever before. That night, before she lay down to rest, Lyra whispered, "Thank you, John. Not just for water or food, but for seeing me." John turned away, pretending he didn't hear. But his chest felt heavy with emotions he hadn't felt in years. Days passed, and the bond between them grew stronger. Lyra began to trust him enough to laugh quietly when he made a dry joke. Her laughter was soft, broken from years of silence, but it filled the cabin with warmth it had never known. John, in turn, began to see her not as a burden, but as someone worth protecting. He even found himself planning around her, shopping more wood so she would stay warm, leaving food aside in case patrols kept him from hunting. Small things he had never done for himself, but outside, danger was still close. The villagers whispered more each day. Some said John was acting strange. Some said they saw shadows moving near his house. The guards began to circle more often, their lanterns glowing in the dark like hungry eyes. One evening, as Lyra washed a bowl in the corner, John spoke quietly. "They're getting suspicious. They'll come again, and next time, I don't think words will be enough to send them away." Lyra froze, her hands tightening on the bowl. "Then I should leave. I can't let you be destroyed because of me." John shook his head firmly. "No. We already tried that talk. If you leave now, you die, and I." He stopped, his throat tight. He didn't finish, but his eyes told her what his words did not. She looked at him with wide eyes, her lips parting. She whispered, You don't want to lose me." John looked away, embarrassed, but he didn't deny it. That night, as the fire burned low, Lyra moved her blanket closer to his chair. She didn't say anything, and neither did John. But for the first time since she entered his home, the space between them was no longer filled with fear. It was filled with quiet trust. The bond was sealed, not by words, but by the silence of two people who no longer felt alone. And though both of them knew danger was coming, they also knew they would face it together. The choice the next days felt like walking on a rope stretched above fire. John and Lyra lived in silence, careful with every sound, every step outside. Patrols passed more often. Sometimes they stopped near the cabin, their lanterns glowing through the cracks of the wood like burning eyes. John tried to act calm when he went into the village for supplies, but he felt the stares. People whispered when he walked past, "He's hiding something." One muttered, "I bet he has her." Another said, John kept his head down, but his fists tightened. That evening, when he returned home, Lyra was waiting by the door, her face pale, her eyes wide. "They came again while you were gone," she whispered. "They knocked, but I didn't answer. I stayed hidden like you said, but they know. John, I can feel it." John set down the bag of food, his jaw tight. "Then it's only a matter of time," he muttered. Lyra lowered her head, her voice soft. "Then I must leave tonight, before they come back. If they find me here, they'll kill you too." "No," John said firmly, almost angrily. He stepped closer. "I told you already. If you go now, they'll catch you before you leave the road. You won't make it, Lyra." Her voice cracked. "But why let them destroy you too? Why carry my chains when they were never yours?" John looked at her for a long moment. His chest felt heavy. His quiet life had been safe. Empty, but safe. Now everything had changed. And still he couldn't imagine going back to the way it was before, he whispered, "because your life matters more than my silence." That night, neither of them slept. They sat by the fire, listening to the distant sound of boots in the village. Each hour felt like a countdown. And then, near dawn, came the knock. But this time, it wasn't sharp and quick. It was heavy, slow, filled with finality. The sound rattled through the cabin like a death bell. John stood, his fists clenched. Lyra trembled beside him. "John," she whispered, "please, don't. Open it. Let me go out the back. I will draw them away. Maybe you can be safe." John turned to her, his face hard. "Stop. You think I could watch them chain you, drag you through the mud, beat you until you bleed? No, Lyra, I won't let that happen." The knock came again. Louder, a voice shouted, "Open up, John. This is your last warning. Hand her over, or we burn your house to the ground." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "They'll kill you." She whispered, "If you fight them, they'll kill you." John grabbed the iron rod from the wall, the same one he had once raised against her when she first appeared. He held it tight now, but not against her. For her, maybe they will. He said quietly, "But I'd rather die standing with you than live in silence while they take you." Her lips parted, a sob breaking free. She reached for his hand, her fingers trembling. "You're the first person who ever saw me as more than dirt," she whispered. "If I die today, at least I will die knowing that." John squeezed her hand. His eyes were steady. "You won't die, not while I'm still breathing." With that, he pulled open the door. The morning light spilled in, blinding. The guards stood outside. More? Then before 5 of them this time, armed and ready, their leader. The scarred man stepped forward. His sneer was sharp. "Move aside, John." The man said coldly, "Hand over the alien. She's filth. She's property, not a person. If you protect her, you die with her." John stood tall in the doorway, the iron rod in his hand. His voice was steady, louder than he expected. "She's not filth. She's not property. She's alive. She's worth more than all of you put together. If you want her, you'll go through me." The soldiers laughed harshly, but there was unease in their eyes. No villager had ever defied them like this. The scarred leader's face darkened. "You've made your choice, human," he growled, "and it will be your last." Behind John, Lyra's voice rose, shaking but strong. "I am not dirt. I am not an animal. I am Lyra, and I will not go back to chains." The guards froze for a moment, shocked at her defiance. Her voice carried power even through her fear. John stepped forward, lifting the iron rod. T's heart pounded, his mind screamed. At him to run, but his body stood firm. He was no soldier, no hero, just one man. But he would not surrender her. The standoff stretched, the air thick with tension. Finally, the scarred leader spat on the ground. "This isn't over, John. We'll be back, and when we return, we'll burn everything you love to ash." They turned and marched away, their boots heavy against the dirt. John lowered the iron rod slowly. His whole body trembled. Lyra rushed to him, tears streaming down her face. She clung to his arm, whispering, "You chose me. You chose to fight for me." John looked down at her, exhausted but steady. "I chose what was right," he said quietly. "And I'll keep choosing it as long as I live," for the first time in her life. Lyra smiled through her tears. Her voice was soft but full of strength. "Then I am not alone anymore." The danger had not ended. The war was far from over. But the choice had been made, and from that moment on, John and Lyra would face it together.